Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, it's all happening, isn't it, as far as little Madeline is concerned? You know, this case, this missing persons case that's haunted certainly Britain, but really haunted the world for so long. 18 years. A little girl goes missing in a holiday resort in Portugal, and it's literally launched, millions of pounds have been spent on trying to find out what happened to this little girl. And of course, we still don't know, even after all this time. And there's been lots of, oh gosh, I mean, you couldn't even go into all the twists and turns. She's been seen in Morocco. She was sold through trafficking. Her parents are responsible. Now it's Christian B who's supposedly responsible. There's been so many twists and turns in this case that have all led to absolutely nowhere. We're still no further on in knowing what happened to this little girl. So, as far as this video is concerned, sorry, I've just listened to something going past saying something, and I was trying to work out if I could hear what they were saying. Yeah, we're no further on after all this time. Madeline's parents don't know anymore. You know, a lot of people think the parents maybe were complicit. And that's part of what we're going to do tonight is we're going to look at the very first interview they gave after Madeline was kidnapped. And this was on the 25th of May, 2007. And we're just going to have a look at this interview because when this case happened originally, I wasn't doing these true crime videos, so I didn't comment on it at all there. Since then, I have been there to Pride or Lose. And, you know, anyway, my videos are all here on my channel. You can find the playlist of when I actually went on location there, etc. So I have had it, but, you know, I haven't looked through all the interviews from the parents, etc. So I thought what we'd do, something a little bit different. Well, what's brought all this on, of course, suddenly everyone's talking about Madeleine McCann again, because the German police have gone off to Portugal for a 4-day search, a very comprehensive search, apparently using ground penetrating radar, searching wells, searching properties, searching the land around, in conjunction with the Portuguese police. A 4-day search. Now, there's got to be a reason for it. Surely they haven't just gone there just on the off chance they might find something. Surely they've got some intelligence, some proof that there may be something. Is it possible that this time something is going to be found? Because of course there's been loads of searches, you know, notably right after Madeline disappeared. There's been search after search after search, and nothing was ever found. Not a piece of Madeline's clothing, just nothing. No trace of Madeline was ever found. So why is it going to be any different this time, I wonder? But anyway, so that's what we're going to look at. But first of all, we're just going to look at what has brought this on. You know, what is the reason that this search has happened? And of course, the reason is because the German police have got this man, Christian B, in custody that they are convinced is the person that abducted and killed Madeleine McCann. And so they're convinced of it, but they haven't charged him yet. So presumably this search is about trying to find some evidence to make it so that they can charge him, because currently it seems like they haven't got enough evidence. But he's not going anywhere at the moment. He's in prison for another crime. It seems like he's not a very nice person, just generally. But he's due out in September time. So the people are saying things like it's a race against time. It's now or never. This is the last chance saloon for finding out what happened to Madeleine, etc. So first of all, let's just have a look at, as I say, what has brought all this on. Let me find it. And this new search, of course, started today. So the new search is underway and it brings fresh hope, but there are big unanswered questions. So this land, sparsely populated land, being searched, used by dog walkers and hikers, and is only a mile or so from where Madeleine McCann was last seen. So why have they gone back there? Because all this will have been searched at the time, of course. So, you know, they must have some information, mustn't they? That surely they're not surely they're not just going back there to, you know, just for the sake of it. I mean, there's got to be a reason that they're going there. Let's have a look at this video.
Police from Germany and Portugal are starting the first major search in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann in more than 2 years at a site around a 10-minute drive from where the 3-year-old British girl went missing back in 2007. Well, we understand around 20 areas in this barren, remote scrubland are being searched over the next few days.
So around 20 areas. Well, they're not just picked those at random, have they? I mean, there's a reason why they're there, just we don't know where it is, of course.
There are ruins there, it is dense grassland, and there are dozens of police from Germany and Portugal taking part in this search. German police are leading this investigation because the prime suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine is a Christian B, a 48-year-old German man who is currently serving a 7-year prison sentence in a German jail for rape. He has always denied any involvement in Madeleine's disappearance, but he used to live in Praia de Luz at a property not far from the search area. This is the first major search in this case in more than 2 years. Police were in the Algarve around 2 years ago when they were searching a dam about 45 minutes from where Madeleine went missing. This operation here, led by German police, is expected to last all week.
So that's why all this sudden sort of, you know, Madeleine fever, if you like, again. I mean, she is one of the most, if not the most famous missing person all over the world. You know, everybody knows about the Madeleine McCann case, don't they, for whatever reason. Then shrubs, empty barns, disused wells and dirt tracks. The police have got their work cut out if they're to find evidence relating to Madeleine McCann's disappearance. And 18 years have gone past. So that's the challenge, isn't it? 18 years. What evidence is going to be left? So at 6 a.m, before police cordons were put up, we spoke with an officer, a balaclava covering his face, manning one of the forensic tents. It's a large area, he told me. A different place will be searched every day. So yeah, they keep referring to it as the last throw of the dice, the race against time. You know, it's surely if they don't find anything this time after 4 days, it's not going to happen again, surely again. Anyway, gusty winds blow up dust on the dirt tracks. The land is used by dog walkers and hikers and is sparsely populated. But as the crow flies, it's only a mile or so from where the 3-year-old was last seen while on holiday with her family in Praia de Luz in 2007. And as we stood by the police van, out for his morning run was Tony Gallagher, a Brit who has lived within this new search area for 20 years. He still remembers when it all happened. Oh, they all remember it. When I went there, everyone you speak to, there's a lot of people that are still there, like the guy who worked in the tapas restaurant. He still works there. But of course, it's not a tapas restaurant now. The guy that owns the Ocean Club now, he was working there on the night it happened. He knows all about, this is a place where people, it's not a transitional place. That's something that I noticed. I mean, like Christian B, he was someone like a bit of a van lifer. But a lot of people in that area, they go to live there and they're still living there. It's not such a transitional place as some holiday resorts are. So he said, this guy says, I know for a fact that they searched up here 20 years ago, he said. I'm not sure what well, it wouldn't have been 20 years ago. It was 18 years ago, wasn't it? I'm not sure what they're hoping to find because even locals were searching. So everyone was out there searching, but of course things can get missed. Obviously, the police are there for a particular reason, aren't they? So it's one of the big unanswered questions. Just what intelligence is this latest search based on? Has someone come forward? Or is it some of, because the police said they had all this new evidence, didn't they? So is it a result of all that new evidence that they got from Christian B's computers, etc.? It feels strange, Tony adds. I think it will be for the people in Praia da Luz because it had a whole negative impact there 20 years ago in terms of business and tourists coming and everything. And I hope for the locals that doesn't happen again. So let's just watch this timeline.
It was in the 28th of April 2007 that the McCann family arrived in Praia da Luz for a holiday. Madeline's mother, Kate, then discovered the little girl was missing on the 3rd of May. Detectives were quick to say they believed she'd been abducted, but they thought she was still alive. Then, 100 days after she went missing, police admitted she could be dead. In that September, Kate and Gerry McCann, her parents, they were made official suspects in their daughter's disappearance. But the following summer, Portuguese authorities shelved their investigation and they said the McCanns were no longer suspects. It was then in 2013 that the investigation was reopened. That was after an internal review uncovered new lines of inquiry, the Metropolitan Police also joining in the search effort. And then a really significant moment. 7 years later, German paedophile known as Christian B was identified as a prime suspect. Now, he has denied any involvement, but police started treating Madeline's disappearance then as a murder investigation. It was in April 2022 that Christian B was made an official suspect. And in May 2023, German authorities searched a reservoir that was around 30 miles from Praia da Luz. And then that comes to today. Officers expected to search several plots of land near the house where Christian B lived at the time of Madeline's disappearance.
So, I mean, that's just, I wanted to just give a brief outline, but I think basically we all know more or less the story of Madeline, don't we, of what happened. Well, we don't know what happened, but, about the situation and the situation around it. So I'm not going to go any more into that. We're going to go straight into this interview. So as I was sort of, I suddenly thought, I've seen a few interviews with Gerry and Kate, but I haven't watched them for a while. And I thought it might be a good, and this interview came up on my, while I was researching. And I thought, well, it'd be good to do a react to it. We'll have a look at it. The McCanns, obviously, they came under a lot of suspicion. They're still under a lot of suspicion. For me, the thing I just really surprises me, and I've said it often, is after Madeline was snatched, supposedly, according to them, why did they continue to leave their children in the guarderia, in the nursery there? I just don't understand that. Because to me, well, first of all, I would never have left my children on their own in that apartment. But then if then Madeline was snatched, one of them was snatched, I certainly wouldn't be letting the other two out of my sight. So I'll never understand that. These are the little things that chip away at me a bit. Of course, they carried on their routine, doing their running and, just carrying on as normal. They didn't seem to be that concerned. But of course, I don't know. I'm just saying that's how it felt. Okay, so let's have a look at this interview then. Let's start with this interview. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen this interview before. This is supposedly, according to the title, that it was given by Sky News. It's their first interview on the 25th of May, 2007. So, let's have a look. So, first of all, they're sort of seated there. They've got the pictures of Madeleine in the background. They're still in Portugal, I think, when this interview was done. So they stayed in Portugal a long time, didn't they? Well, in fact, they only left Portugal, of course, when they were made arguidos. And then when the suspects, when the suspicion sort of revolved towards them, that's when they left Portugal, wasn't it? Before that, they didn't want to leave, which you can't blame them. They'd want to be there when Madeleine was found, or hopefully found. So they stayed there. But having said that, I say they stayed there, but they were actually jetting all over the world, weren't they? They went to see the Pope. Gerry went off to America to get interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. You know, they didn't really stay in Portugal all the time, and they left Sean and Amelie, who were 2 years old, even though their other daughter had been snatched. They still went off and left the twins, like with other people looking after them. And that to me, it will always, you know, it will always leave a bad taste, you know, it'll always be something that I just don't understand. You know, once one of your children has been kidnapped, supposedly, and you're still in the same place, don't forget, and they seem to think she'd been targeted, or, you know, it was something to, you know, people might have known about her being there or whatever, and they still left their children in the kids club afterwards. So, you know, that will never sit right with me. But anyway, so let's see.
Very much indeed for talking to us. I'd like to begin by taking you back to the events of May the 3rd, on that evening. Tell us how you discovered that Madeleine had gone.
As I think people are aware, we were checking regularly on the children.
Sorry, I just want to say before we get going with this, you know, they're always, look at Gerry, the way he's looking to see what Kate is doing. And, you know, and the end of the day, they're a couple. They, you know, they're sort of obviously not careful, that's not the right word I'm trying to say. They're looking to see what the other person's going to say. They certainly seem to be a very strong couple, didn't they, in that sense? But Gerry's sort of looking almost as if he's just seeing what she's saying, you know?
And it was during one of my checks that I discovered she'd gone. I mean, I can't really go into any details about that, but I'm sure any parent will realise.
Why couldn't she go into any details about it? It's one of her checks. It was about 10 o'clock, wasn't it? So they'd left all the children alone in that room, 3 children under the age of 5, in that room that was miles away from where they were having dinner. No matter what they say, I know, I've been there. It was miles away. You would never leave your children there. You won't think about it. And it wasn't in the complex. It was an apartment outside the complex, up the road, round the corner. And to get to it, you had to go out onto the road. You couldn't go straight to the apartment through the complex. You had to go out of the complex, walk up the road, past a couple of roads, turn left, and it was out of sight, out of everything. So, you know, that's a lie that they told, is saying that it was just like having dinner in your garden. But only if you live in Buckingham Palace. It was nothing like having dinner in your garden. There's no way in this world I would have left those young children, maybe older children, you know, like maybe 10, who could, you know, come to the window. And of course, in today's day and age, people have, you know, phones, don't they? That, but we just have to remember how little they were. 3 children, ages 2 and 3. You know, these were not like older children. So, and they've never apologised for that, you know. That's the other thing that bugs me a little bit. Like, they've never said, oh, we should never have left them alone. They've never said that. They've always tried to justify leaving them alone. No, haven't they? They've never said that it was the wrong thing to do.
Is how that felt.
Did the panic set in immediately?
Yeah, pretty much.
This is a resort that offers childcare facilities, babysitting facilities. Why then were the 3 young children left alone in the apartment while you were having a meal?
Right. I think if you know the location here, which you've seen...
Look, she doesn't know what to say. She doesn't know what to say there. That was, you know, he asked the question that everybody was, and Kate doesn't know what to say. So you see, Gerry will come in now and justify what they did instead of just saying, oh, we should never have done it. It was a big mistake. They never acknowledged that. And Gerry's going to come on now and say, oh, if you knew the resort. Well, I know the resort. I've been there. No, I wouldn't leave my children in there. And everywhere you go, all the restaurants and that, there are people take their children with them. That's what they do in Portugal. They don't leave their children home alone in apartments miles away from where they're dining. Now, Kate knows it. Look at her face as she's looking over to the side. She's thinking about it. She doesn't know why they did it. She doesn't know what to say. So Gerry jumps in.
I mean, I think if you know the location here, which you've seen, what we did, I think, and we've been reassured by the fact in the thousands of messages from people.
Oh, thousands of messages from people telling them, yeah, it was fine what you did. You know, to me, they are other negligent parents then. Is anyone going to say, I don't know anybody who would say that what they did was fine. So, but Gerry's determined he's not going to say that, you know, this is besides whether they did anything to Madeleine or not, or whether she died in an accident or blah, de, blah, de, blah, de, blah, de, blah. He will not acknowledge fault. And what kind of people don't acknowledge fault? Narcissists. You know, instead of saying, you know, when we look back now, it was crazy to do it, we shouldn't have done it. But they did it, and they're supposed to be, doctors. He's a surgeon. She's a doctor at the time. I don't know what, I think now I don't know what they're doing now. But, he's supposed to know better. And what he's saying is, it was fine what they did. Yep, all of you. Any one of you out there, if you've got like 3 children under the age of 5, just leave them in the house and go off to the pub next door or whatever. You'd be fine. Everything will be fine.
Who've either done exactly the same or said they would have done the same. And
no, they wouldn't.
For us,
no, they wouldn't.
It really wasn't very much different to having dinner in your garden and the proximity.
Well, I'm telling you what, he must have a big garden, that's all I say. As I say, his garden must be Buckingham Palace, because I've been there, sat in that restaurant and tried to look at the apartment from where I was. You can't see the apartment, you can see the window, but you can't see, you wouldn't be able to see if anyone went in there, came out of there. You wouldn't be able to hear if one of the children were crying. It's miles away. It's miles away. It's disgusting what they did. That is, regardless of what you think happened after that, whether it was them, whether it was Christian B, whether it was anything else that actually responsible for the disappearance of Madeleine, the fundamental thing that they have never, ever acknowledged is that what they did was wrong. And I cannot believe that the media in general, the mainstream media, always backs them up. 100%. If that would have been someone from a council estate, a single parent, leaving their 3 children there, what would the headlines be in the Sun? It'd be like, benefit mum leaves her children in an apartment, one gets kidnapped. It'd be like, be the most terrible thing that anybody ever did. But because they're middle-class doctors, everyone's supporting them. I watched the news this morning, the what is it, Good Morning Britain, and they were defending them. Oh yes, well, you know, yeah, people do leave their children. It was like blah blah blah. Shouldn't be left. They should never have been left, and they should acknowledge that.
Proximity of the location. I think it's fair to say that, you know, the guilt that we feel having not been there at that moment, irrespective of whether we had been in the other bedroom or not, will never leave us.
Do you blame yourselves regularly?
Certainly the first few days.
See how they sort of pass over as well. I think it's quite strange that. So she didn't know what to say when he said, do you think that was right to leave the kids there? And Gerry took over that. And then he asked that question, and then Gerry, he must have touched Kate's hand or something, because how would they know just automatically then? He's saying, you answer this one. Look at his face again, you know, there's more, they know more, or you always feel when you're watching them talk. And of course you can't prove that, and it might just be a feeling, but you always feel that there is more to it all.
I think the guilt was very difficult, but I think as time goes on, we feel stronger, and
so this is only in May. So the guilt was bad at first, but as time goes on, we feel stronger. Do you imagine how you'd feel? Your 3-year-old daughter, you don't know where she is. She could be with a PDF. She could be been trafficked. Anything could be happening to her. And it's only a couple of months, and then suddenly it's like, you know, we're stronger. So, you know what? You'd still be a complete wreck, wouldn't you? Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm too emotional, whatever. I don't know. But see, again, Kate gets this far away look in her eye. Kate's thinking about something that she's seen there. See, I feel like these parents were at rest mentally, because they knew she wasn't being molested somewhere, because they know what's happened to her. That's personally what I think. Because I think if you didn't know, you know, this early on after it had happened, you would not have recovered. But anyway, everyone's different, I suppose. Maybe they're just emotionless people.
You felt very supported from that point of view.
Is there a lesson here, do you think, to other parents?
I think that's a very difficult thing to say, because if you look at it, and we try to rationalise things in our head, and ultimately what is done, and
what is done is done. A weird thing to say, isn't it? What is done is done. We're trying to rationalize. I mean, he's a surgeon, so surgeons probably think like that. He has got a different way of thinking. What's done is done. It's beyond me, this way of talking, completely beyond me. I wonder what Sean and Amelie think when they're watching, you know, if they do go back and watch these interviews. What do they think of their own parents who left them alone in a room? Oh, God, you know, I don't know if you're the same, but with your kids, they always pull up every little bad thing you ever did, don't they? It's like, oh, do you remember when you did this, or you didn't let me go there, or you... what are Sean and Amelie going to think about, you know, oh, do you remember when you left us alone in that apartment in Portugal and our sister got kidnapped?
We do continually look forward, but we've tried to put it into some sort of perspective for ourselves. We're in a very safe resort. If you think about the millions and millions of British families who go to the Mediterranean each year, really the chances of this happening are in the order of 100 million to 1.
What a weird thing to say. You think of all the families that go missing. This is 1,000,000 to 1 chance. Yeah, but those families probably don't leave their kids on their own in their apartments, you know, again, look at him, the way he's looking away, the way she's looking. you can see why people suspected the McCanns and still do. And, you know, I'm a bit sort of on the fence with it. There, as I said earlier, there are things that I just cannot understand that they did. But I 100% don't believe that they killed her. If she did die, if she had an accident and they covered it up, I think that's exactly what it was, an accident. That's just my opinion, though, of course. But I'm entitled to an opinion like anybody else. Only they know the truth, don't they? Only Gerry and Kate really know the truth, and they've got to live with it one way or another. They've got to live with the fact that they left their children alone. They're the ones that have got to, you know, live with that fact.
I think at worst we were naive. I mean, we're very responsible parents. We love our children very much. And I don't think any parent could ever imagine or consider anything like this happening.
Were you aware of the big public debate that went on?
You know, and I don't agree with that either. I think most parents, they're terrified that something might happen to their children. You know, they worry, they over worry, don't they? Well, I certainly did. You know, you over worry. Oh gosh, you know, they go off. I don't know. You're always in this quandary of letting your kids. They always want to do a bit more than you feel comfortable with, don't they? You know, so you want to let them sort of explore the world. I mean, thing is, when they're 3, no, you don't. When they're 3, they need your constant attention. Toddlers, they need constant supervision, don't they? That's the scariest time. And I don't agree with what Kate says, that most people don't think something will happen to their kids. I think people really do worry that something might happen to their kids, especially when they're toddlers, because toddlers will just run off and be gone in a minute. You know, they can be literally gone in a flash. They move so quick. Once they learn to walk, you know, and I always say you spend the first sort of year or so of their life trying to get them to walk and talk, and then the next 3 years trying to stop them walking and talking. Because once they've learned to walk and to run, they move so quick. And they think it's fun, don't they? So they'll run away from you. They run into the road. They'll run over, you know, fall into a canal or fall into the water, or because it's a game to them. When you know, they get a little bit of freedom and that's it, they start running, they're all excited, aren't they? They're getting away from you. They think it's a game. So no, I don't think that's true at all, Kate. I think most people with kids that age, I mean, it's different when they get to 9 or 10, maybe you would think that it wouldn't happen to them because they're older and they're more capable of looking after themselves. But 2 and 3 years old, you would think that nothing could happen to them. I don't agree with that. I think when your kids are 2 and 3 years old, it's a non-stop worry of making sure they're safe. Anyway, I'm sure you'll all let me know what you think.
On in the immediate aftermath, and were you hurt by that?
Yeah, I mean, no one hurts you as much as the hurt that we had. But, you know, we've tried to remain very positive in our outlook. And even small levels of criticism make that hard when you're trying to do everything in your power to get your daughter back.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I shouldn't say it, because do you know what? So let's see. What do you think that they might find Madeleine in these 4-day search, and it might be confirmed that Christian B is in fact the person who did whatever to Madeleine? The Gerry, right? Do you know the first time I heard about this case? I was living here in Spain, and it was on the radio. I must have been listening to the radio, and Gerry was speaking, and I remember literally the hair stood up on my neck when I heard his voice. I couldn't even see his face. I was listening to it, and I thought, I didn't know what it was about or anything. I was just, you know, when you've got the radio on in the background, and I just had the news on, and it's probably Sky News as usual. I was probably just listening to it on the radio or something. And the hairs on my neck literally stood up the first time I heard him speak. Don't know why, just his voice. There's something sinister about Gerry. And I'm sorry, maybe he isn't sinister at all. But I thought, oh my God, who is that speaking? What they're talking about? Just like I got this real spidey sense, weird feeling. And then, of course, that's when I found out about the case. And I've probably been a little bit prejudiced because here in Spain, all the news outlets, you know, they don't mince their words here in Spain. Well, certainly then at that time, they didn't seem to have to worry about accusing somebody of something. All the Spanish media was accusing the parents. That was all they were talking about all the time. It was the parents had done something. You know, they were at that bloody Portuguese church filming, saying all sorts of things. That was when I first heard about it. So I suppose that I got like the Spanish version of it, or and yeah, right from day one, they were saying that Gerry and Kate were responsible. But, you know, there is something sinister about Gerry. I'm sorry, there is something sinister about him. And maybe he's not sinister, maybe it's just his way. But I think he's quite sinister, personally.
I know you've been very supportive of the Portuguese police investigation, but is there anything that you feel could have been done better, particularly in those crucial first 24 hours when Madeleine was missing, and perhaps it was treated as a simple missing child as opposed to an abduction?
I think, you know, we are not looking at what has been done, and I don't think it helps at this stage to look back at what could and couldn't have been done. I think it's fair to say we expected a very British style response that you would expect if you were in a big metropolitan city. But you have to put it in context that we're in a tiny resort. But, you know, that aside...
yeah, there was a lot of sort of, as you know, and it is only a tiny place, a tiny village. It is really. And they sort of used that, I think. Look at Kate, she's miles away there. She's thinking about whatever there. Don't you wish that somebody said to me in an email the other day, why doesn't Elon Musk, all these things he's inventing, why hasn't he invented something to read people's minds? Because you watch these people talking, not only in this, in lots of cases, and you just wish you could look inside their mind. Are they telling the truth? You know, and there's all this about body language, but you know, body language really, I think, can only be understood backwards. Some people are very good liars. They can hide their body language. They can be aware of it, you know, and quite often you see these body language experts, but they're talking when somebody's been found guilty afterwards, you know, and they go, yeah, you can go back then and say, oh, when they did that look, you know, that means they're guilty. But it's very difficult, I think. You know, you can't prosecute someone on body language, can you? You can get strange feelings, but feeling is not enough to prosecute someone. I forgot my start. Oh yeah, so I do feel as well they were trying to. They thought they were cleverer than the Portuguese police. I think we see this a lot. You know, I've said it before. You can't, just because there are small police forces and that, you can't assume that they're thickos. They're not Keystone cops. You know, they do know what they're doing. I do think that the Portuguese police made mistakes in the beginning because nothing ever does happen in that place. And you know what you've got to remember is nothing's ever happened since. That's the only time that a child's been abducted, supposedly, allegedly, from that area. So that's odd, isn't it? You know, because it's not a place where children get abducted generally, but their child got abducted, apparently. Anyway, so I do think maybe the Portuguese police did it, just thought in the first instance. I don't know. Well, I don't know. They know that. But did they, in the first instance, just think, oh, no, she'll be around the resort somewhere, you know? It's possible. But I think he's quite contemptuous, Gerry. He thinks he's better than everybody, doesn't he?
The times for these lessons to be learned will be after the investigation is finished and not now. You know, it's an ongoing investigation which has huge resources both from Portuguese and the British. They're working very, very closely with lots of expert help, and I know there's hundreds of pieces of information continuing to come forward, and I would strongly like to emphasise we would like anyone who's been in here in the 2 weeks leading up to the abduction to come forward if they have not already done so and upload their photographs, because we want Madeleine back and people can still influence that.
Looking back, I mean, did you see anything suspicious in the days leading up to her abduction? Did you notice anything? Have you been racking your brains to try to think whether people might have been watching?
We didn't.
If we did, we wouldn't tell you because...
No, thinks it's funny. Yeah, if we did, we wouldn't tell you. How is it funny that? How is that funny? You know, he's so supercilious, isn't he, Gerry? You know, he's like, yeah.
It may be important information, but we didn't, you know. It was such a relaxing holiday, and in fact, as a family unit, up until that night, and with the friends we were here, certainly for us, it was as good a holiday as we have had with the children, up until that point.
As good a holiday as we've had with the children up to that point. Yeah, because the children were in the kids' club all day. They were left in the apartment on their own all night. They never saw the children. It was supposed to be a family holiday. They didn't do things as a family. You know, no wonder it was the best family holiday they've ever had, because he never even saw the children. God.
Up until that night, and with the friends we were here, certainly for us, it was as good a holiday as we have had with the children, up until that point.
Whatever.
You have to keep believing that Madeleine is still going to be found alive and well.
Absolutely, we do.
Do you ever, though, allow yourself to drift towards negative thoughts?
I think in the early days we did, and I think that's inevitable. I think any parent who's been through this does that, certainly in the first few days. We don't now. We're actually a lot stronger, a lot more hopeful now. And we have to be hopeful. It's what keeps us going and keeps us focused.
And what about Sean and Amelie? What have you said to them about their big sister?
They're really good. I mean, they're at an age really where they're still quite young, and I guess it hasn't had the same impact on them as if they were a little bit older. They do talk.
I wonder, you know, I'd love to know how Sean and Amelie feel about this whole thing. You know, I feel for them because they haven't done anything, and they've grown up being, you know, part of perhaps, you know, at the end of the day, they're the siblings of the most famous missing child ever. And they've got all this. I mean, I wonder how it dawned on them. I mean, I'm sure, knowing what kids are like, I'm sure children at school said things to them. And then, of course, we've got the internet and that. So I'm sure they've done quite a lot of internet searches. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know how it's all been dealt with, but I really feel for Sean and Amelie. I mean, they seem to have done well. We looked at them, you know, Sean's possibly be swimming for Great Britain in the next Olympics. You know, he's done well with his swimming, and Amelie's done well. So maybe the McCanns have done something right in that way of bringing them up in a good way, even and coping with this horrible situation that they have got no control over. You know, they were born into this situation, weren't they? They've done nothing, that's for sure.
About Madeleine, they pick up things and say Madeleine's, you know, and that's fine, but they're really good.
I think that's, you know, something that is, many people have said to us that this is a parent's worst nightmare, and it is. It truly is, and it's as bad as you can possibly imagine. But, you know, if all three of the children had been taken, it could have been even worse than your worst nightmare. And we've got to be strong for them.
I don't know. Is that just a weird thing to say? It's like, oh, well, it's okay because we've still got to. You know, if all three of the children would have been taken, it would have been an even worse nightmare. Just a funny thing, you know, it does say some strange things, but I don't know what are the right things to say in this situation. I literally do not know, but He says another couple of strange things as we go on here, but I thought that, and you know, I do think that is what's the crux of this, because I think this is my theory, and it is just a complete theory. If whatever happened to Madeleine happened, like an accident or something, you know, they were probably thinking that this could just cause such havoc, you know, in their family life and everything. They had 2 other children to think about, but then they weren't really thinking much about the children when they left them all on their own in the apartment, were they? You know, just weird.
You know, they're here. They do bring you back to earth, and we cannot, you know, grieve. One, we did grieve, of course we grieve, but ultimately we need to be in control so that we can influence and help in any way possible. Not just Sean and Amelie, but the investigation.
And because of them, the day may come when you have to leave here and go back to the UK. I know you've got no plans to do so at the moment, but how do you think you're going to feel if that day comes and you have to go to the airport and fly back?
I can't think about that, Ian, to be honest. I can't think about going home without Madeleine. So.
I notice you've got Madeleine's cuddly toy with you as always. How did that start, and what comfort does it bring you?
So, of course, this time they weren't thinking of going home. They were still in Portugal. They soon went home when they got made suspects, didn't they? But at this time, it's like, oh no, we're staying here. But as I said earlier, they weren't really staying there because they were jetting off all over the place and leaving their 2 kids with other people to look after them, even though they'd already had 1 kid abducted. Right, I'll be back in 2 seconds. I'm going to let the video play. I've just got to go into the kitchen a moment. I'll be back in a sec.
Where did it come from? Or?
No, how did the idea come to just have it in your hands all the time?
Well, it's something that Madeleine has with her every night. And if she's upset or not well, then she has Cuddle Cat. And so it provided me with a little bit of comfort. It's something of Madeleine close to me.
This is International Missing Children's Day. I mean, I guess Madeleine's had more publicity than just about every missing child in the world put together. I'm sure you're very grateful for that. Why do you think it has provoked such enormous public support, of which I don't think we've ever seen before?
I think there's a conglomeration of circumstances that have come together in this situation. The fact that we're on holiday, very safe resort, recognised for that. And of course, the world has changed in terms of information technology and the speed of response, you know, in terms of the media coming here and us being prepared to some extent use that to try and influence the campaign. But above all else, it's touched everyone. Everyone. You don't have to be a parent for this to have a major impact on you. And I think it's also been very, very important.
Hey, Mud Fossil, sorry. So I'm going to go back to the Cuddle Cat, actually, because that's, I think, relevant, isn't it? A lot of people were suspicious because Cuddle Cat, which is supposedly Madeleine's favourite toy, Kate was walking around everywhere with it, but she washed it, didn't she? She washed it. And, you know, I've got to say, I know I brought one of my dad's jackets to Spain when my dad died in Manchester, and I went over there for the funeral, and his light sleeveless sort of jacket thing that he used to wear in the garden, I brought it home here with me to Spain. It's still not been washed. I wouldn't have dreamt of washing it. Why would I wash it? You know, because it's like, I mean, you know, this is quite a few years ago now, so it wouldn't have any trace perhaps of him on there now, but you know, there certainly wouldn't have, I wouldn't have brought that jacket back here and washed it, because it was lovely to snuggle into it and know that my dad had worn that in the garden. That was his favourite thing, gardening. You know, you wouldn't, why would you wash it?
Something that Madeleine has with her every night. And if she's upset or not well, then she has Cuddle Cat. And so it provided me with a little bit of comfort. It's something of Madeleine close to me.
This is International Missing Children's Day. I mean, I guess Madeleine's had more publicity than just about every missing child in the world put together. I'm sure you're very grateful for that. Why do you think it has provoked such enormous public support, of which I don't think we've ever seen before?
I think there's a conglomeration of circumstances that have come together in this situation. The fact that we're on holiday, very safe resort, recognised for that. And of course,
Oh, yeah, you keep saying that it's recognised for that, or it's recognised for being a safe resort. Yes, it was before you were there, and, you know, nothing's ever happened since, but strange that it just happened while you were there. Nothing happened. You know, Christian B lived there for a long time. As I've said in other videos, when I went there, I got chatting with somebody who knew Christian B. And he was adamant that Christian B would not have done that, but of course he doesn't know for certain. But that's just a bit of anecdotal, you know, chat that I'm telling you. So what I'm trying to say is Christian B was there for a long time. He wasn't just there for a week while Madeleine was there, but there weren't any other incidences. Now I could be proved, you know, completely wrong. Maybe they'll find evidence in these 4 days that prove it was Christian B. You know, I hope they do find something in a way. I hope it is cleared up. And then if these parents are innocent, I hope they do get completely cleared. You know, I really do. It's just something, isn't there? You know, all the things again. It's like when you add up all the little things, like the cuddle cat, like the cadaver dog, like, you know, why did they leave their children in that apartment with the door open? Remember, the door was unlocked as well. You know, all those different things add up to a big thing. Lots of little things add up to a big thing, don't they?
The world has changed in terms of information technology and the speed of response, you know, in terms of the media coming here and us being prepared to some extent use that to try and influence the campaign. But above all else, it's touched everyone. Everyone. You don't have to be a parent for this to have a major impact on you. And I think it's also been very, very important. And some of the things which we have done and said, which we didn't realise what impact they would have, but so many thousands of people are doing small things to help us find Madeleine, because the worst feeling was helplessness. The absolute worst, that we had no bearing on finding her. But once you start to do that, then you start to feel a bit better. And I hope we're going to look back at the end of all this and say that we have done everything in our power, but also that other people are helping in so many other ways and they feel that they are part of it.
Does it worry you that people might start to lose interest as time goes on, the media coverage diminishes inevitably?
For me, we know that the media coverage is not going to last a long time. It's lasted much longer and we have been much, much more successful in driving our message out than we could.
Well, media coverage has never ebbed in this case, has it? Look at it now today, just the fact that the police are going out there to search again. It's all over the media, social media, mainstream media. And they drove that. You know, they did drive that. They, you know, that's how, you know, I never feel bad about presenting any videos about the McCanns, because they drove that. They looked for publicity. They hired a publicity guru, didn't they? Clarence Mitchell. He was like the publicity guru for the Liberal Party. He was a politics media guru. They hired him, paid him, you know, to control their publicity, their communications, etc. So they drove it. Look at their faces there. Both of them are looking to one side and thinking about something else, aren't they? I don't know what's going through Kate's head there, but you really do feel like there are things, she's thinking about things that have happened that we're not familiar with.
Could ever possibly have imagined. Personally, I think it's gone beyond that at the minute, and that there is a feeling with many, many people out there that they will not allow this to happen. And we know that, and we pray that it doesn't happen again, but when it does, the speed of the next response and the template we have set will alter it. And there has been so much goodwill and humanity out there that it really has restored, that one evil act actually has resulted in so much good.
Where do you go from here? There's talk of travelling around Europe. Have you got any firm plans as yet?
We haven't got any firm plans. We're likely to travel in a few places in Europe, but as yet, no definite plans.
But you've got no plans to go back to the UK for the foreseeable future?
No.
Yeah, I wonder why they had no plans. So they'd had plans to travel around Europe, like looking for Madeleine, but no plans to go back to the UK. Well, that was until, of course, they were declared Algidos, suspects, and then they were straight back to the UK, weren't they? Yeah.
I think that everybody has just been incredibly impressed with you as a couple and how you've dealt with this. There was a period after a week or so where you looked as if you were almost broken, and who could not understand that? And then there seemed to be a sort of a strength come from somewhere. Is that a fair point? Is that what happened? And
Well, I don't remember them looking broken, do you? For other parents that I've seen that have lost children, you know, I'm thinking of the Soham murders, Holly and Jessica's parents. Or little Sarah Payne, her mum and her dad broken. They were broken. Sarah Payne's dad died of alcoholism because he never got over Sarah's murder. You know, that is, but I don't think Gerry and Kate ever looked broken, did they? Did anyone think that they ever looked broken?
what brought that about?
I think that's definitely true, isn't it?
Certainly, you know, at the end of that first week, there was so much emotion that we had spent, and we actually had a period where we discussed this openly, that we felt completely devoid of emotion. And the analogy that I like to use is a bit like when we were students and you...
Oh, wait till you hear this analogy of what it's like. So, you know, people trying to describe like their emotions and how they feel. This is Gerry's analogy.
Got to your overdraft limit and you'd gone beyond it and there was just nothing left in the tank.
So it's like when you get to your overdraft limit, when you're a student and there's just nothing left in the tank. Everything comes down to money with Gerry. I don't know, because luckily for me, I've never had a missing child. And it's not going to happen, not a child anyway. But I can't imagine that I would use an analogy of going to the bank as a student and your overdraft has run out or you've got nothing left. That's how it feels when your child's kidnapped. Why is it a money analogy? I don't know. He's a very odd person, Gerry, to me. Sorry, Gerry, but you are.
Also, I think physically and mentally were shattered. But, you know, as you gradually get more on an even keel, we started to get back into the black. And we'd also worked tirelessly behind the scenes to put support mechanisms in place.
Then he says it again, you know, we got back into the black, you know, comparing it to his overdraft when he was at medical school. For Christ's sake, sorry, Christ, but, you know, that's weird, isn't it? And the thing is now, see Kate here, she's got this cross. Kate is, I don't know about Gerry. Is Gerry as religious as Kate is? Kate went to see the Pope, didn't she? I'm 100% certain that some priest somewhere has heard this couple's confession and knows exactly what's happened to Madeleine McCann. But, you know, Kate has always got her cross on. She's like a very committed Catholic. Has she just gone and confessed to whatever it was happened? But Gerry doesn't strike me as a religious person, but maybe he is. You know, he just doesn't strike me as that. But maybe I'm wrong about Gerry. Maybe Gerry, it's just the veneer that he puts on, and maybe inside he is. He has got some emotions. I mean, I've got to be honest, he's a surgeon, and if you had someone operating on you, you would want someone operating on you that didn't have many emotions, really, wouldn't you? You wouldn't want some gibbering wreck operating on you, you know, oh God, I, you know, cut the knife the wrong way or whatever. You need to have nerves of steel to be a surgeon. You know, that is just the way it is. And thank God for those people who are surgeons who have nerves of steel. So maybe that's just it. It's just Gerry's way because of what he does for a living.
Including our legal team, the response with the fund, which was really driven by offers rather than us thinking that we needed it. And once these were in place, then it helped us to focus on what we really needed to focus on.
Well, everyone who's watching, who's been following Madeline's case over the past 3 weeks, just wishes you all the best. Thanks very much, Gerry. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, yeah, that was it now. I mean, there's loads of interviews, obviously, that they've done over the years. I mean, the thing is, I wonder how they feel about these searches.
Gerry and Kate, thanks very much indeed for talking.
Because, of course, it's brought it all up again, hasn't it? You know, and, you know, it is an ongoing nightmare for them, and it would be awful. You know, if they have had nothing to do with it, you know, they've had to live with that suspicion, but they have brought some of it on themselves. I do think that they have brought some of it on themselves. Maybe one day that all the truth will come out. I don't know. But as I say, for me, it's not that I believe that they deliberately red-rummed Madeleine. I don't believe that for a minute, but I do believe in my heart that something happened that they know about. But I could be completely wrong. And these searches now that they're doing, maybe something that will be found, something will be found that will definitively link Christian B to the disappearance of Madeleine. And then, you know, I will owe these people an apology, but there's just something. It's just something. And, you know, I've learned over the years to trust my senses. I'm normally right when I have feelings about people. You know, I have got a good instinct. I haven't got to this advanced age without learning that. You know, many over years, sometimes I deny my instinct about people. I think, oh, no, they're all right, really. And they're not. You know, I'm always right in the end. So that's how I feel about Kate and Gerry. I feel like they do know something. There's something about them, but, you know, it may not be anything. Yeah, I don't know, Angel, if there's any footages of how they speak from before. But I think we will over these next 4 days while the searches are going on. I'm going to pick a particular interview because they have done, this was supposedly their first interview, but they've done loads of interviews now. And though they don't do them anymore. So, of course, they've got a busy year, haven't they? Because they've got these 4 days of searches. And then at the, what's the word? In the autumn, of course, there's the fake Madeleine stalker case. Thing is, though, David, I don't think they are upper class. They're not upper class. You know, Kate is not upper class, definitely not. You know, they've become upper class in a way because they went to university and that. But I don't think they were born into the upper classes. I don't think they were. It's because of their going to university and becoming doctors, maybe. But, you know, do you understand what I'm saying? I don't think they're upper class, like come from upper class families or whatever. I don't believe that. I think they are emotionless. There's a lot that I'd like to say actually about what I think about Gerry, but it probably I'm not going to say it. Not maybe on members I'll say it, but yeah, there's just something about them, isn't there? Yeah, they got there through their careers. What I'm trying to say, David, is I don't think they were born upper class, and I don't think they are upper class. They're middle class, aren't they? You know, middle class, I suppose. But they knew, I think part of the reason as well that they've got away with so much is because they knew Martin Frizzell, didn't they, who was in charge of ITV at the time. And before even ringing like the British police or anything like that, didn't one of the tapper, you know, one of their friends rang Martin Frizzell, who then, Sonia Poulton talks about it brilliantly. You know, Martin Frizzell then immediately started this abduction theory, didn't they, on the Good Morning Britain or whatever. So, yeah, and then now, yeah, I've seen it all over the mainstream media today. Nobody's even saying that they shouldn't have left those children on their own. You know, it's just like they're pandering to them all the time. It's quite odd, really. Quite odd. Yeah, Martin Frizzell. He's another sinister man, very sinister man, I think, Martin Frizzell. You know, and things will probably come out about and if you listen to Sonia Poulton talking about Martin Frizzell and him and Philip Schofield, and of course she's been proven right with Philip Schofield. Look what happened with him. He was leading a double life for years. Hugh Edwards, all these people, you know, there's this sort of weird thing going on, isn't there? But and the McCanns seem to have contacts in those circles, so, you know, very the thing is, you could go down this rabbit hole, couldn't you? There's so much in there and so much to investigate, but you know, you just go round in circles, really. This is what we need in Madeline's cases. We need evidence one way or another, something like a little body, or, you know, some clothes or something. Nothing was found of Madeline's, was it? And Madeline must be somewhere, whether it's Christian B who abducted her, or whether it was something the McCanns did, or whether it was somebody completely different. You know, people talk about Clement Freud and that, what's his name? Murat, was it, the guy there? Whoever did it, Madeline has to be somewhere. The thing is, it just be a tiny little body, easy to hide, really, and difficult to find. Bodies are hard to find when they're adult bodies, aren't they? So, you know, very... No mud fossil. I don't think Christian did it either, but if something is found, we'll see. But so 1 day down now. So the search is going to last 4 days, apparently. 1 day's gone. Got 3 more days to go. We'll see what happens. I know you can't believe that she will be found, David. It seems unlikely, doesn't it? It seems unlikely, but like you say, we hope we're wrong. Because, you know, who deserves it? You know, of course, the parents, if they haven't had anything to do with it, they deserve to know. But the person who deserves it most is Madeline. Little Madeline deserves to be put to rest properly, not just left wherever she is. And also, her siblings deserve to know what happened to their big sister. You know, what happened to her? They don't deserve to be always known as the siblings of the most famous missing person case in the world. Madeline does not deserve to be always remembered as, you know, just this child who was snatched or possibly killed by her parents, or maybe an accident. You know, she deserves it, and her siblings deserve it, because they are the completely innocent parties in this. And Kate and Gerry, if they didn't know what happened to Madeline, they are guilty of leaving their children alone in the first place. You know, if something happens to your children, if you look at a case of Jamie Bulger. Now, Jamie Bulger, his mum, was, you know, there with her son, Jamie. She just literally took her eyes off him for a second and he was gone. She didn't leave him at home in an apartment on his own. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's a whole different situation. They are guilty of negligence, whichever way you look at it. They left those 3 children alone in that apartment. 3 tiny children, and they're guilty of that, if nothing else. So, okay, Thanks for listening. Thanks for caring about Madeline. I think we all care about Madeline, don't we? I think one thing for Madeline is everybody cares about, you know, her. So that's important. Yeah. And I think what I'll do is perhaps each day or each evening, you know, that while this search is going on, I'll find an interview that you might find interesting of the McCanns, and we'll watch it together. But I will be back in the morning with the good old mushroom murder trial. Erin continuing with her defence. That's a whole nother situation, isn't it? I mean, certainly truth is stranger than fiction, isn't it? Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.